My own family gathered everyone together and staged an intervention just to disown me. They claimed it was for the good of the family. One by one, they explained why they thought I didn't belong anymore. I listened quietly without arguing or defending myself. What they didn't know is that I secretly owned the business they all depended on. The text message from my mother was absolute. Meeting 7 p.m. sharp. Non-negotiable. I stood before my parents' heavy oak front door, my hand hovering over the cold brass knocker, fully aware that whatever transpired inside would be far from pleasant. The perfectly manicured lawn and the gleaming luxury Mercedes parked in the driveway screamed the kind of hollow success my family worshipped, a standard I had apparently failed to meet. I am Melanie, the designated black sheep of the Gonzalez dynasty. While my siblings methodically collected Ivy League degrees and prestigious accolades like trading cards, I chose a radically different path. I chose to create things with my own two hands, building a life and a career that was uniquely mine, forged in the fires of my own ambition. The door swung open before I could even touch the metal, revealing my mother standing in the foyer with her lips pressed into a rigid, bloodless line. "You are late," she announced, not looking at me but checking her diamond-encrusted wristwatch. "Everyone is already waiting in the living room." I glanced at my own watch. It was exactly 7 p.m. In the culture of the Gonzalez household, anything less than 10 minutes early was considered a personal failing. I walked past her into the living room, which fell into an icy, rehearsed silence the moment I crossed the threshold. My sister Wendy sat primly on the edge of the leather sofa, her legal briefcase resting by her feet like a weapon. Louisa, fresh from her grueling hospital shift, still wore her scrubs as if they were a badge of honor. Nathan, my younger brother, didn't even bother to look up from the glowing screen of his phone. My father stood by the fireplace, his hands clasped firmly behind his back, looking less like a father and more like a general preparing for a tactical strike. "Sit down, Melanie," he commanded, gesturing toward the lone armchair positioned directly in front of them. The staging was impeccable. Wendy reached into her briefcase and extracted a thick, stapled document. "We have been discussing the future of this family," she said, her voice adopting that cold, clinical tone she used in the courtroom. "And we have arrived at a final, necessary decision." My mother moved to perch on the arm of the sofa beside Louisa, her expression one of practiced pity. "For the good of the family name," she added softly. The document made its way into my hands. The legal jargon was dense, designed to confuse, but certain phrases jumped out at me with terrifying clarity: formal dissolution of familial ties, relinquishment of inheritance rights, termination of all family association. "You are disowning me," I said, the words escaping as a shaky whisper. "It is not personal," Nathan finally muttered, still focused on his phone. "It is strictly business." "Business," I echoed, the laugh that bubbled up sounding harsh and jagged in the suffocating silence of the room. "I am your daughter. I am your sister. How could this possibly not be personal?" "Your choices reflect poorly on our legacy," my father interrupted, his voice dropping to a dangerous, low rumble. "Your little craft hobby is a stain on our reputation." "My business," I corrected, my voice gaining strength. "Making trinkets in your small apartment is not a business," Louisa scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Do you have any idea how it feels when my colleagues ask what my sister does for a living?" "We gave you every opportunity," my mother continued, her eyes cold. "The best schools, the finest connections, the abundant resources, and you have thrown it all away to play with glue and glitter." I looked down at the document again, my hands remaining steady despite the psychic earthquake occurring in my chest. Years of these subtle, biting jabs, disappointed sighs, and backhanded compliments had served as a grim preparation for this exact moment. They had never understood me. They had never even attempted to. "Where do I sign?" I asked. My mother blinked, clearly anticipating tears or a desperate plea for forgiveness. "Melanie, if you would just reconsider your life choices." She started. "Where do I sign?" I repeated, my voice now devoid of emotion. Wendy pointed to the bottom of the page, her finger tapping the paper. Initial here and sign here. There is a notary waiting in the study to finalize this. 10 minutes later, it was done. I was no longer officially a Gonzalez. As I stood in the study, the heavy, suffocating weight of their expectations, their judgment, and their relentless disapproval, all of it finally lifted from my shoulders. I hope you understand, my father said as I walked toward the front door, his tone meant to sound paternal, but hitting like cold steel. This is truly for the best. I turned back one last time, taking in the familiar faces of the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. You know what is funny? I said, my gaze steady. You are so worried about the family name, about success and reputation, but you have no idea what I have actually built. You never even bothered to ask. Melanie, my mother started, her voice faltering. No, I cut her off. You have made your choice, and now you have to live with the consequences. The door closed behind me with a soft, final click, a sound far too gentle for the absolute magnitude of what had just occurred. As I stepped into the cool night air, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A notification from my business account flashed on the screen. Another major order had come in, pushing my monthly revenue well into 6 figures once again. I felt a small, genuine smile touch my lips as I walked toward my car, mentally reviewing the massive stack of orders waiting to be fulfilled, the upcoming collaboration with a national retailer, and the feature article being drafted about my innovative approach to sustainable design. They wanted to cut me off? Fine. They would learn, eventually, what they had discarded. Success, after all, is the sweetest revenge. As I drove away from the house that had once felt like a prison, I did not feel a shred of sadness or lingering anger. Instead, I felt something entirely different. I felt freedom. It was the freedom to be exactly who I was, without apology or explanation. Family, I realized in that moment, is not defined by a shared name or a strand of DNA. It is defined by who stands beside you and believes in you when the rest of the world turns away. I had people in my life who did exactly that, and they were far better than the ones I was leaving behind. The tension in the air was suffocating as I stared at my father, who still stood by the fireplace, his posture rigid. Help each other, he insisted, his voice thick with a desperate attempt at authority. We need to pool our resources. The Gonzalez name still means something in this city. My name means something, I corrected him, my voice steady. My work means something, and I achieved that without your help. Actually, I did it despite your constant discouragement. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from the Singapore collector. They had doubled their offer again, stating that price was no object. I have a meeting, I said, gathering my things. I have a meeting with people who believed in me long before the magazine covers and the television spots. Melanie, please, my mother said, grabbing my arm. Her grip felt frantic. We are sorry. We were wrong. What more can we possibly say? I gently but firmly removed her hand from my sleeve. You know what is interesting about my work? I take broken things that people discard, and I transform them into something valuable. But the truth is, some things, once broken, simply cannot be fixed. Some relationships, once shattered, stay that way. Are you really going to hold a grudge? Nathan asked, sounding genuinely annoyed. After we have apologized? Apologized? I walked toward the door, my heart heavy but my resolve unshaken. All I have heard tonight are business propositions and convenient excuses. Not one of you has actually looked me in the eye to say you are proud of what I built, or that you were wrong to judge my choices. You only want what I have now that I have become successful. That is not true, Wendy. Started, her lawyer instincts kicking in. Save it, I cut her off. Keep your legal papers and your business proposals. I am doing just fine on my own. At the threshold, I turned back one last time. You know what the worst part is? If you had supported me from the very beginning, I would have helped you without a second thought. Family meant everything to me, but you taught me a valuable lesson when you disowned me. Sometimes the family you choose is far better than the family you were born into. I walked out, leaving them with their broken teacup and their shattered pride. My phone buzzed again. It was Mara. How did it go? I texted back, feeling a strange sense of detachment. Exactly as expected. They want what I have, not who I am. They're lost, she replied. The studio is packed with orders. Want to come help? The pizza is on me. I smiled, starting my car. I was on my way. Family dinners are overrated anyway. The sun was setting as I drove away, casting long shadows behind me, much like the discarded pieces I worked with in my studio. I had been cast aside, yet I had found my own way to shine. Some might call it karma, I called it justice. The text came 3 days later. Dinner tonight, please. Dad. I showed it to Ezra during our morning meeting. Do you think he will actually say please in person? I asked. Don't go, he said, not looking up from his laptop. We have the museum meeting tomorrow, and the Singapore contracts need reviewing. I am going, I said, picking up a piece of twisted metal and considering its hidden potential. But this time, I choose the place. I texted back, lawn, 8 p.m. I will make reservations. The response was immediate. That is a bit expensive. I am buying, I replied. Bring mom. Lawn was the kind of restaurant my parents used to brag about visiting before the dealership started struggling. I arrived early, wearing a designer dress that cost more than my old monthly rent. They walked in right on time, looking deeply uncomfortable. The maitre d' recognized me immediately. Miss Gonzalez, your usual table is ready. The chef sends his regards and asks if you would like the special tasting menu he has prepared. My parents' eyes widened in shock. I smiled. That would be lovely, Thomas. Thank you. Once seated, my father cleared his throat. Your usual table? I invest in local businesses, I said, sipping my water. This place included. The chef does amazing things with sustainable ingredients. My mother fidgeted with her napkin. Melanie, about Sunday, let us order first. I cut her off as the sommelier approached. The 82 Bordeaux, please. The whole bottle. My father's face paled. I knew he recognized the four-figure wine. Now, I said after our glasses were filled, what is so urgent? They exchanged glances before my father finally spoke. The bank called in our loans. All of them. We have 30 days to either refinance or sell the dealership. And my mother jumped in. We have explored every option. Nobody is lending in this market. Not to car dealerships, especially not to dealerships without a clear transition plan to electric vehicles, I added. The first course arrived, tiny, intricate works of art on pristine plates. My parents barely touched theirs. We need help, my father said finally. The words seemed to physically pain him. Your help. Financial help, I clarified, not family reconciliation. Both, my mother insisted. We were wrong, Melanie. So very wrong. Seeing what you have built, what you have become, what I have become. I set down my fork. I am exactly who I was months ago. The only difference is that now I have money and influence. The second course arrived. My father still had not touched his first. We are not just asking for money, he said. We want to merge the businesses. Your vision, your sustainable approach, it could revolutionize the dealership. Electric vehicles, eco-friendly practices, it could save the family name. I finished for him. That is what this is really about, isn't it? My mother reached for my hand. I let her take it, watching her face carefully. We are losing everything. Melanie. The house, the business, our reputation. Like I lost my family? She withdrew her hand. The main course arrived, perfectly cooked Wagyu beef. The chef stopped by personally to check on us. Everything is perfect, Antonio, I assured him. The new sustainable menu is brilliant. After he left, my father leaned forward. How much? Excuse me? To save the dealership. How much do you want? I laughed, the sound drawing glances from nearby tables. You still do not get it. This is not about money. It never was. Then what do you want? He demanded, frustration finally breaking through his carefully maintained facade. I wanted you to love me for who I am, I said quietly. I wanted you to be proud of me before the magazine covers and the television spots. I wanted a family who saw my value without a dollar sign attached to it. The dessert arrived, a spectacular creation of spun sugar and gold leaf. My mother started crying silently. "We can change," she whispered. "We can be better." I signaled for the check. "Maybe you can, but here is the thing. I do not need you to anymore. I do not need your approval, your connections, or your name. I built something beautiful out of what you threw away." The bill came. I handed over my black card without even glancing at the total. "So that is it?" my father asked. "You will let the family business die? Let us lose everything?" I stood up, smoothing my dress. "You taught me an important lesson when you disowned me. Business is business. It is not personal." "Melanie, please," my mother started. "I have an early flight to New York tomorrow," I cut her off. "The museum is sending a car at 6 a.m. Enjoy the rest of your dinner. It is already paid for." I walked out of lawn, leaving them with their cold food and their even colder reality. My phone buzzed. Mara was asking how it went. "They finally said please," I texted back. Too bad it was for the wrong reasons. The night air was cool on my face as I headed home. Tomorrow, I would be discussing my art in one of the world's premier museums. Tonight, I had left my parents with the bill they never saw coming, the true cost of throwing away family for the sake of appearances. The tension in the air finally began to dissipate, replaced by a quiet, fragile warmth. We raised our glasses together. "To my sister," Wendy said, her voice steady and sincere, "who taught us that sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones we almost threw away." The evening slowly wound down as the last of the guests departed. My family gathered beneath the massive, glittering chandelier I had crafted, its fractured shadows dancing across our faces, broken pieces creating patterns of light none of us could have ever predicted. "The disownment papers," my father said suddenly, breaking the silence. "We never did destroy them publicly as you requested." I walked to my office and returned with the thick, legal document that had changed the trajectory of my entire life. "Actually," I said, "I had other plans for these." I handed individual pieces of the document to each family member. Together, we walked to the art installation in the center of the showroom, a massive, custom-built glass furnace that served as the centerpiece of my live demonstration space. "The phoenix rises," I said, reaching out to open the furnace door, "but first, the old has to burn." One by one, we fed the pages of our past into the glowing flames. As they curled and turned to ash, I reached for my glass-blowing tools. "Watch," I told them, gathering the molten glass, which was now infused with the remnants of the papers. "This is how you make beauty from pain." We worked in a focused, rhythmic silence for hours. By the time the workshop grew quiet, a new piece sat cooling on the workbench, a small family of glass figures, their cores containing the faint, swirling ashes of our worst moment, permanently transformed into something new. "It is us," my mother whispered, her hand hovering near the delicate sculpture. "It is who we are now," I corrected her. "Not perfect, and certainly not unbroken, but undeniably stronger for having been shattered." Ezra and Mara found us still there, admiring the piece. "Ready to call it a night, boss?" Ezra asked, leaning against the doorframe. I looked at my family, really looked at them. I saw my father's genuine, pride-filled smile, my mother's gentle, grounding touch, and the relaxed postures of my siblings. I realized how incredibly far we had come since that night they had tried to disown me. "Actually," I said, looking back at the showroom filled with the fruits of my labor, "I think we are just getting started." The chandelier above caught the morning light, sending brilliant fragments of rainbow across the polished showroom floor, much like family, like art, and like life itself. Sometimes, the most beautiful things come from knowing exactly which pieces to keep, which to transform, and which to let go. "Come on," I told them all, taking a deep breath of the air that no longer smelled of sterile disappointment, but of hard-won success. "Let us go home." And this time, I knew exactly what that meant.